Hello there! Welcome to the episode 3 of the story Trip to Empalado, a love story that took place in the countryside of Paraguay in the 50s, and which I'm telling to the world in 3 languages, now in English. My name is Jorge Israel. Welcome to SEMENTTYAL channel. You come with me.
SEMENTTYAL.
Well, in the last episode we saw that Mr. Black, or Don Negro, or his nickname Negrito, stayed at the Club Atlético Santa Helena birthday ball even after Azucena had left, taken by her uncle, because Mr. Black wanted to continue with his pilgrimage in order to invite as many of Azucena's relatives as possible, without her knowing, to her 15th birthday party. So, let's watch what he came up with after she left the party. Let's go ahead.
Still at the ball on June 20, allusive to the anniversary of Club Atlético Santa Helena, when 70% of the people had already left, our protagonist, Mr. Black, or Negrito, noticed that a man was looking at him and gesticulating. He approached to check what it was, to which that nice man of more than 70 years told him that he already knew him. And then he introduced his wife to Mr. Black, also introducing himself as a retired army colonel, claiming to have known Mr. Black in the past, as he could not forget such a different figure as the mulatto, something that didn't exist in Paraguay at that time. And he made it clear that he had always sympathized with Mr. Black, but had never had the opportunity to exchange a few words directly. It was already 4 a.m., and while they were talking, a big storm hit the city with a lot of rain and thunders. It didn't take long for it to interfere with Santa Helena's power generator, which had been exceptionally on until dawn that night due to the big event, but normally only run until 10 p.m. With the blackout, Mr. Black went to get the lanterns he used to keep on the bus, parked nearby. The rain was so heavy that he finally offered to take, in his bus, the colonel's kind family to the place where they might be staying, including children, sons-in-law and daughters-in-law present at the event. Finally, others also asked for a ride, so that nearly 20 people rushed to get on the bus, as cars were not too popular at that time in the countryside of Paraguay. The street seemed like a river at that moment, and many people lost their shoes and scarves as they entered the cold winter water and ran to the bus. But all of them were so happy that they ignored their own losses. As soon as they got into the mighty Volvo, the ex-colonel's wife started to feel sick after walking in that icy water. Unable to breathe due to an asthma attack, she despaired, followed by her husband, who was so scared and worried that he couldn't think clearly. It was then that Mr. Black, with his extensive first aid training, lots of inspiration and mental clarity, approached the 65-year-old woman and, taking her by the shoulders, said firmly and simultaneously sweetly, "Lady, Look into my eyes. Look at me. It's alright. Stay calm. Chill out. You'll be home soon. And I promise you will feel better if you calm down. I'll take good care of you. Don't worry. Now, breath with me. Like this. And so Mr. Black managed to help that lady not to have a serious attack. Using his captivating gaze, he made that lady regain control over herself through a mindset she had borrowed from the young mulatto, so determined and confident.
Yeah, our mind is really powerful, you know? And it seems Don Negro knew that intuitively. He was sure that if she paid attention to him willingly, she would manage to let her mind impose itself on matter, on a body, her body, that was on the verge of collapse. And it was what happened, because our body will always reflect our mind. In a person's life, at this level of apparent reality in which we live, all of their creation necessarily passes through their mind, causing all of their life scenario to materialize according to what they have inserted and kept in their mind along their many lifetimes.
As soon as she got better, the former colonel regained his sense and got impressed by the firmness and calmness of Negrito, thanking him profusely for a long time. And then the bus left for the homes where those people were staying, folks coming mainly from the cities of Coronel Oviedo, Cacupé and Itacorubi de la Cordillera, and who decided to stay wherever they could, as they didn't want to miss that gala ball. At one of the last stops, the former colonel and his family got out, thanking the attentive driver again. The next stop would be on the same street, but uphill, where 3 ladies would get off, since the last 3 men would go with Mr. Black to the inn, because they were also staying there. These ladies insisted that Negrito leave them right there, under the hill, claiming that they would live in the rain and mud because the climb was too steep and offered risks for any vehicle in that situation. But Mr. Black, always a gentleman, didn't accept that these ladies would submit to such a sacrifice on a cold and rainy day. Then he shifted into a low gear and carefully steered the bus up the hill, leaving them right in front of their houses.
But what a gentleman he is! What a gentleman! What a bold, brave and charming guy he is!
And then he tried to back the bus down the street very slowly, because he couldn't find a way to turn the bus around. It was quite slippery, and despite all the care and skill behind the wheel, the bus finally slipped and got stuck in the mud at the side of the road.
Oh my gosh! What a stubborn man! I knew it. I knew this guy would do something wrong. I knew it. Take it easy, man. This guy has a strong guardian angel, and you will see it.
It was already 5 in the morning, and Mr. Black even tried to get the bus out of the mud, but all he managed to do was get muddy. The other 3 men decided to leave and walk to the inn, suggesting to Mr. Black that he rested and sought help in the morning. Well, used to military tactics, he grabbed clothes and blankets and decided to sleep right there with a floor mattress because it was late and he was tired. And well, he was having a fantastic night of sleep until he heard screams around 10 a.m. It seemed very strange to him, and when he lifted his head, he realized that he had turned into a passenger on the bus, which had broken free of the mud and was slipping down the street with all its weight and size. Mr. Black could do nothing but hold on to keep from falling. Eventually, that big Volvo ended up landing inside the kitchen under construction of a house at the foot of the hill. And it knocked everything down, including the roof, which fell on the bus.
Hey, come closer. I'm here thinking to myself, where is this mulatto's strong guardian angel, huh? Where is he, huh? Hey? Wait a little bit more. Us wait? Shall we wait longer? Let's see.
Mr. Black immediately got off the bus and soon realized that he had almost run over a young woman, and nothing happened just because she saw the risk and left the landing track of that great spaceship out of control. But now, just pay attention. Look how interesting this is. The son of that woman, named Nalita, decades later would become none other than the president of Paraguay, cousin of Azucena, because that lady who almost was run over happened to be another Azucena's aunt. Yeah, Mr. Black almost left orphan from a very young age. The one who would one day become president of Paraguay, Mr. Nicanor Duarte Frutos. Come on, let's face it, how lucky Negrito was, huh? His guardian angel seemed to be quite strong.
Strong? His guardian angel? Imagine if, by any chance, he didn't even have it, huh?
However, Don Negro barely got off the bus, still dirty with mud from the confusion of hours before, and he was already terrified, with his hand on his head after seeing the facade of that house completely demolished by himself. And then the owner of the house suddenly appeared, running and scared. It was another uncle of Azucena who was hosting that aunt who had almost been run over by the bus, the mother of the then future president, and who had come from Coronel Oviedo town just to go to the ball. Then another neighbor appeared, also Azucena's uncle. They were gathered together as they all wanted to share the pieces of meat from an ox they had slaughtered that morning. And after sharing the food, as usual, they would prepare a delicious barbecue. But everyone readily recognized Negrito, as he had paraded at the ball with Queen Azucena, and everyone knew very well who he was. Soon after, the former colonel, who was staying at a nearby house, arrived at the place. From a distance, he had recognized Negrito's bus and didn't hold back. He had to get closer to see what had happened to that lovely boy. There were many Azucena relatives there, all of them looking in astonishment at the disaster before them. And so that former colonel decided to approach everyone and intervene on behalf of Mr. Black. Then, looking at the house's owner, he said, "Don't worry about this collapsed kitchen, sir. The important thing is that no one got hurt," he finished, while observing the structure of the beautiful kitchen all in wood, which was the housewife's dream. Then the owner of the collapsed kitchen said, "My gosh, this is the third time that the construction of my dreams goes wrong. For years I've been trying to build the most important area of my house, destined to receive visitors. Look, I even left this noble space in front of the house destined exclusively for that dream. Gosh! The first time they stole the truck that transported the materials. The second time an ox cart went out of control down the hill and destroyed everything. And now it's all over again with this big bus. May the Virgin of Cacope help me." And at that moment the former colonel puffed out his chest and said, "On this last night, Negrito, here, which I already knew and admired, saved my wife's life, and I assure you that he is a very special and worthy man. For this, sir, I promise to rebuild this immense kitchen of yours, with a dining room as well, and I will pay for all the work. And so, is that okay for you, sir?" The owner of the house put his hands to the sky, looked at Negrito and smiled. And everyone immediately got into a party mood when the owner invited everyone to the barbecue that would soon start. Mr. Black even inadvertently helped Azucena's uncle make his dreams come true, and even better, because Azucena's unlucky uncle had ended up being lucky, since he hadn't to invest another penny to finish it. For a year, the former colonel covered all expenses until the work was completed.
The first saint showed up. This is getting a little better. We'll see.
But now let's face it, Mr. Black couldn't have landed his huge buzz in a better place, huh? There were Azucena's relatives everywhere in that region. And right there he spent the day putting his plan into action, inviting everyone to a surprise party where all of them would be party crashers. Well, it looks like they were all angels there, because they were accepting that crazy plan of Mr. Black.
The party crashers angels. Sounds good, doesn't it?
While dreaming of his beloved, Mr. Black liked to listen to the following song. As a musical being, he practically traveled in his dreams with the help of this particular song, sighing passionately for a girl who had made him lose his way. Or would it be find his way? And after that ball, where he had met a lot of people, Mr. Black invited a legion of Azucena's relatives to her 15th birthday party, without either she or her parents knowing anything about it. In fact, all of Mr. Black's guests would be party crashers. The only condition that Mr. Black had imposed on the guests was that everything should be a surprise. He didn't accept to give space to bad luck, and that's why he put all his efforts in order to avoid that something went wrong or was misinterpreted, even because his intentions were the noblest possible. Azucena, on the other hand, was very busy, since in addition to taking care of the orders for knitting, crochet and cross-stitching, she was also giving tutoring classes 3 times a week at her school for many groups of children. She was also coordinator of the Basic Cycle Graduation Committee, since she and 32 other colleagues would complete graduation in November of the same year. With all that, our young woman was very busy, yes, but inside her was still growing, full of expectation, as a backdrop for all those daily activities, the dream of celebrating her 15th birthday on the 27th of September. As the date approached, Azucena sometimes felt a strange sensation, albeit a sweet one, as it seemed to her that she was barely touching the ground, that she was almost floating. And wherever she went, she heard comments of all kinds, as for example, "Oh, daughter, enjoy this time, it's only once in your life," used to say the adults. "I think all this is absurd, an exaggeration," said the envious girls, who were already over 15 without much fuss.
That's envy.
And even, "Chingolita, you're going to invite me, right? I've already made my dress," questioned some girls of her age. With all that agitation, the teenager barely noticed the frenzy that had settled in Aunt Celia's atelier with the making of her princess dress, in addition to so many other dresses for her cousins and aunts, not to mention the usual orders of her aunt, who was then obliged to hire 2 more assistants in order to facilitate her new, more hectic routine. As if all that wasn't enough, there was still the admirer, the mulatto, who always sneaked around the house of Azucena's relatives, including some with whom she had barely interacted in her life. Sometimes she even showed a certain jealousy when she heard, for example, that her beloved had spent the previous afternoon drinking tereré or eating at the house of some great aunt whom Azucena had barely known in her entire life. She had no idea that Mr. Black was engaged in his campaign to seduce her relatives with the main objective of captivating them, thus facilitating a future approach to her parents.
With so many angels around, maybe, I said maybe, Mr. Black won't get shot by Azucena's father, Don Juan Cosme, who was an ex-military and certainly a tough man. I don't know, but Mr. Black is determined to be a crasher at Azucena's party on an all-or-nothing basis, and he will go to the party no matter if it is with Azucena's relatives or alone. He only wants to be there. he is definitely a resolute man, a bold man, don't you think so? What do you think is going to happen? Huh? Well, regardless of that, it won't happen today because, we have reached the end of this episode. Yeah. But, thank God there is always a but. I will reveal to you an extra, a bonus, a story that happened between the 4-year-old Nicanor Duarte Frutos, the 4-year-old boy, and Mr. Black. A funny story that is worth mentioning, and I think you will love it because it is quite interesting. Let's watch it.
When the boy Nicanor Duarte Frutos, who would one day become president of Paraguay, was 4 years old, he starred in an unusual story with Mr. Black, which is worth mentioning just for the joy it contains. Negrito, as he was called at the time, had promised to bring a special request for young Miss Nalita, Azucena's aunt and mother of the boy Nicanor. And so, one day he stopped in the town of Coronel Oviedo in order to make his delivery. It was a good amount of sheep wool with which the young Mrs. Nalita intended to make bed linen for the family. When he arrived at her home, she invited him to come in and sit in the living room. Nalita offered him a tereré and went to the kitchen in order to prepare it. And then, through a curtain of plastic strips which separated the rooms, the boy Nicanor spied Don Negro with a mixture of fear, awe and curiosity. And Negrito, always friendly and kind, invited the boy to come closer. Elusive, little Nicanor finally gave in and sat on that different gentleman's lap. After talking for a while and getting more at ease, the boy asked Mr. Black an unusual question. "Did you get burned at the feast of St. John?" "No, why do you ask that?" replied Negrito.
"When people walk in the Tata Arichihasa, they sometimes get burned. So, did you get burned?"
"Oh, you mean when they walk over the embers of the fire at the feast of St. John? But no, I didn't get burned." "Where did you get that idea?" asked Mr. Black, already curious about the boy's doubts.
"Because you're dark. I think you got burned,"
replied little Nicanor naively. Turns out that the little boy had never seen a black person. This was strange to him and, in his innocence and naivety, he questioned Mr. Black, who burst out laughing. "No, my boy, I didn't get burned. I'm like that. My skin is different from yours. I'm from a different race. One day you will understand that. But hey, I'm fine, okay? I'm not hurt." And little Nicanor got delighted with the good news that there was no problem with that different being, but who had enchanted him. And the boy already jumped off Mr. Black's lap, starting to run around the house, so happy was he. Soon Nalita, the boy's mother, arrived, laughing too, as she had heard everything, and then she said, "Ignore what he said, he's a boy, he's just curious. Here's our tereré, drink it first." "Of course, Aunt Nalita," said Mr. Black. "I don't have any problem with my color. I really like being like that." He finished while beginning to sip his tereré very cold.
Look, the truth is that in Paraguay, Mr. Black never experienced prejudice for being black. No, never. In fact, no one in that country ever looked at him in a strange way just due to his skin color.
In fact, what happened was the opposite of that. Yes, many women tried to approach him because he was a man, so handsome and elegant. In other words, he never suffered any kind of discrimination in Paraguay.
However, he did go through situations where he experienced racism. Yeah, he did. Just check it out.
Only twice in his life Mr. Black felt discriminated against because of his skin color, and these 2 times did not happen in Paraguay but in Brazil. However, let's make it clear that it wasn't any Brazilian citizen's fault, but his own, Mr. Black's. It may not seem like it, but the truth is that any discrimination always starts within the individual who has suffered discrimination.
Got confused? I will explain it to you.
Unfortunately, the concept that will be explained now is not so simple to understand, okay? And I can assure you it goes way beyond human psychology. That said, now I ask you to open your mind in order to receive a very different point of view, coming from a higher level of consciousness which contemplates one of the greatest truths of life, the cosmic maxim, which states the following.
Each person is 100% responsible for everything that happens in their own life. Everything. Therefore, blaming another person for something unpleasant that happened to you is always a lack of a broader perspective on your own experience in the relative world, even if this other person was aggressive towards you. Just know, you were the one who attracted that. That's the truth.
That said, it's correct to say that all discrimination actually starts within the discriminated ones, who end up attracting the experiences of segregation or prejudice just because they have such discrimination, such prejudice within themselves. And so they attract a self-created experience that will corroborate exactly what's on their mind, which will show that what they believe ends up materializing, becoming real, even if it's something completely distorted. Yes, because given the maxim just quoted, you should understand that in life everything and everyone will always reflect what is inside you, the beliefs that are inside your mind. Yes, you are the only creator of your own adventure as a creature. Everything and everyone will reflect you. The other is therefore another version of yourself in different clothings and will always reflect you. This is called cosmic consciousness, properly described in the book The Passionate Man's Handbook. Therefore, it's true that in the 2 times that Mr. Black attracted discrimination in Brazil, he himself was responsible. Yes, we ourselves are always responsible for everything that happens to us. Period. That's consciousness. That's the truth. An absolute truth, which transcends our temporary truths.
Look, come on. it's quite easy to blame the other who did something unpleasant or even aggressive towards you. Keep in mind that the other is always a reflection of yourself and will always reflect what is here inside your mind. So Mr. Black, who at that time was in Curitiba, South Brazil, ended up feeling a bit unsure about his differentiated condition, his skin color. Let's say that, for some reason, he chose not to feel so at ease with his different condition.
And then, no matter what country or world the person is in, they will inevitably attract experiences that corroborate what they think, consciously or unconsciously, about themselves and about life. That's how it is, whether you accept it or not. All our experience is self-created. Well, if you have paid attention to what I've said and opened a little crack in your mind, then you've already started to realize that creating your life scenario is much more complex and comprehensive than you thought.
That's how it is. Welcome to the awakening of consciousness. Welcome to a higher consciousness.
Welcome to SEMENTTYAL channel. Welcome to anigia.com blog. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Veces al sol que hayan campos de blanco algodón a cultivar que en los sueños florezca el ideal que haya el día de la redención elevar la nación.